The last year or so, I've really been getting back into Metroidvanias. And, well, not really Metroidvanias, Metroid. Not really Metroid, Super Metroid. So I played Super Metroid again this year. I play it like every 5 or 6 years. I don't know, this time something about the flow really connected with me. It usually does, but it was like on a different level because I played the game in just a few sittings. You know, they were long sittings, but I went through the game sort of quickly, and the way everything flowed together it's elegant. It's one of the best games ever made. So after I was finished, I wanted to play more of that. So the next thing I played was Metroid Dread. And no. Maybe I'll give it like a 6.57 out of 10 if I had to, but I played a little bit into that. I didn't get too far. Maybe I beat a couple of bosses. It has similar flow, but it just didn't have the same magic that the original had. So I was like, all right, let's leave this alone. Then I picked up Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and I realized, wow, this is an interesting game. It's beautiful. The movements and the combat are way too clunky. This is not what I'm in the mood for at all. So then I picked up Hollow Knight, and I loved that game, but I didn't love all of the Souls-like elements that came along with it, like the body runs and the collecting runes or whatever they called them in that game. I forget. In the end, I installed a mod to make it less punishing so that when you die, you don't lose all your runes, because I like exploration a lot more than I like, punishing gameplay. And then thanks to the Humble store, I discovered Ghost Song. I didn't even know about this until it showed up on Humble's page. It's produced by Humble, so thanks very much for empowering a few indie developers and letting them create something. Ghost Song is Super Metroid and Hollow Knight together. And I know some people are like, do not use other games to describe the game that you're playing. No, that's exactly what this is. It's Super Metroid and Hollow Knight coming together to make a new game. It's more in the style of Super Metroid, and it has a lot of the same upgrades, and we even have a screw attack just like in Super Metroid. They call it I don't know what it's called, but it's the not screw attack. Even the developer on his Twitter page called it the not screw attack. This game really scratches a lot of the itches. I needed to stop thinking about Super Metroid in order to enjoy it, and once I did, and once I let myself move past some of the derivative stuff, which there is a lot of derivative stuff, I was able to really get into the charm of this game because it's something different while still being very much the same as what we're used to. Is it too derivative? Let's talk about that first. I do think, yes, it is a little bit too derivative. It's basically so derivative that it becomes a ripoff. Just like Metroid, you have to upgrade your gear, upgrade your suit, upgrade your weapons so that you can open doors and reach new areas in the game world. You have to get the wall jump so you can reach really high. You have to get the double jump. You have to get the missiles so you can open certain doors. And a lot of these upgrades come in sort of a similar order, but they do some interesting new things that I want to call out because I really appreciate some of the stuff they do. Your gun, it overheats, and once you get your gun really, really hot, your melee attacks do a lot of damage, and that's something that's really satisfying about this game, and it's somewhat unique. Another thing that I think is unique and I like about this is that your missiles or your secondary fire, you can equip several different guns or weapons into your secondary fire spot. Missiles or whatever it is, scatter shot, flaming attacks, just whatever. You can equip stuff there, and you do not have a finite number of missiles or whatever. You just have a bar that goes down while you're shooting missiles, and then it starts to refill slowly. So this will help you with some boss fights if you ever worry about running out of missiles when you really need missiles or something like that, or running out of your flaming shots or your whatever it is. I don't know. Whatever gun you have equipped, there's several different ones. You don't have to worry about running out. And it kind of made some interesting gameplay because there was a few times where my gun is overheating and I'm completely out of my special, secondary attack, my missiles or whatever. And so then I need to let it regen for a while. I need to let my bar fill back up. So I end up just having to dodge around and try to stay alive while using my regular fire, which is pretty weak, to try to kill some stuff. And then just wait for my missiles to recharge. And I think that's some gameplay that I haven't experienced in a game like this, so that was quite a bit of fun. But really the most unique thing about this game, and the thing that I found to be the most fun, was just getting my gun red hot and then wailing on the enemies with one of the massive melee attacks. And there's several different melee weapons you can get in the game, and you can upgrade them and equip the ones you like. And that's something else that's different when compared to Super Metroid or something like that. It's more like Hollow Knight in the sense, or even Elden Ring or the Souls-like games all the way back to, I don't know, Kingsfield, what was the first one? So it's more like those games, Kingsfield-like games, where you have to level up your character and create a build. It's very minimal. You know, you've got your resolve and you even have vigor. They didn't even change the name. So you just upgrade your suit. I went pretty much all the way with the resolve to get myself more slots to put some extra components into. And then you can start to put together your build. If you like to shoot a lot, well, you can add some elements that will make your gun not overheat as much. If you like melee a lot, well, you can add an element that makes your gun overheat very quickly and get really hot so that when your melee attacks are laid on the enemies, they do an enormous amount of damage. You can add components that'll allow you to gain health faster, etc., etc., etc. So I feel like the game really could have done without it. It's fun to have, to let you like differentiate your character and pick your own play style. But I feel like there could have been other ways to do it that weren't completely straight out of like, you know, the Souls-like book or the Elden Ring book, or it's just like Hollow Knight, being able to use your runes and your charms and all that stuff. I say runes because I'm thinking of Elden Ring and the Souls-like games and stuff like that. But yeah, you got your charms or whatever in Hollow Knight. And when you're installing your components and stuff in this game, it looks just like it. It's not very different. So it feels like they took a bunch of systems from games that they really, really loved and sort of forced them into this game. And I wonder what would have happened if they would have, you know, sort of thought of what they could do without being so derivative from those other games. Because the game world itself is really beautiful and the art style is unique. That's the main thing that's unique here, is the art style, the characters, and just the world that we're in here. Of course, there's a story. I'm not going to give away anything with the story. Some of the characters are very cryptic, but we do have a whole plethora of human characters. There's a ship here that's lost. That's part of the story, is you're trying to help this ship get off, get off the planet that you're on. And the characters that are here trapped on this world, and to me, they all look like a bunch of Portland game developers. I wonder where this game was developed. But it's not like, I don't mean that as an insult, but they're just like something about the crew here. They just seem like they would all be a bunch of Portland indie game developers. And they have personalities. A lot of them are artistic. One of them likes to dance, and the other one of them, likes to write poetry and stuff like that. So there's a lot of like nerdy artist stuff going on in this game. It has a very indie feel, and that brings me to the music, which is very ambient indie background music. It's like guitar and some keyboard and sound effects. It's kind of music. It's kind of mostly just background stuff. None of these songs are things that I'm going to be like actively listening to like I would with the Super Metroid soundtrack. They're just kind of background ambiance. There's some pretty cool little tunes in there. I think it's really well done music and stuff like that. But if I was going to play it outside of the game, it would just be while I'm doing something else that requires a lot of my attention so that it can just be background music. But all in all, the music is less musical and more just background ambiance. It sounds good, and it fits the mood. It fits the whole indie style. But this is something about this game. It just feels so indie. Maybe it's the dialogue. Maybe it's how some of it's a little bit campy, and maybe how some of it's a little bit darkly poetic. But the characters can be overly garrulous and stuff like that. So I don't know. But let's talk about the artwork while we're looking at it right now. It's so interesting and beautiful. It employs a lot of the same techniques that you'd see in the 2D platformers that are coming out today. The multiple different layers the background layer that's slightly blurry, and it's hand drawn and really, really pretty. It could have been pixel art and looked really good, but it does still have a retro feel somehow. Maybe it's the color palette they used, and it's not cyberpunk, but some of the areas that are like really technological have this look to them that just kind of looks like, I don't know, pulp cyberpunk. I don't know exactly what style this is. The color schemes and stuff are really going to stick with me for a while. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that I don't like about the game. Well, first off, you get an upgrade kind of early on in the game that allows you to sprint or to run a little bit so you can traverse the world. And that's what I'm going to talk about right now, is traversing the world. Sprinting is really slow, especially compared to the dash that you get in Super Metroid. And the sprinting does not just fly straight through enemies. So if you've cleared an area, every time you go back, you're going to need to clear that same area again or try to find your way around the enemies. But you're going to usually want to beat the same enemies over and over and over again. They don't immediately respawn. If you save your game, they respawn or whatever, if you go to the save point. but they usually take a while to respawn, and you're going to want to continue to kill them because you need to collect all of that nano gel that's on the ground. That's like the rune equivalent that's there. You collect the nano gel to level up your suit, and you also collect it to buy a bunch of things. So you're going to have to like slow down the pace of the game and realize that you're going to be defeating the same enemies over and over and going through the same areas over and over and over again. And when you're running, it takes a long time because it's very slow, and running drains your stamina, which I think was a very weird idea because it's slow, it's frustrating, it takes a long time to get anywhere, and the fact that it drains your stamina even when there's no enemies on the screen means that you can't just run endlessly. You have to run for a little while and then stop and let your stamina recharge. So I think that was a very strange decision for a game world that's pretty big. It's nowhere near the size of like Hollow Knight or something, but it feels, I believe, maybe a little bit bigger than Super Metroid. You know, having to retraverse this world so often and, you know, collect all the different nano gel things that fall out of the enemies so you can upgrade your suit, all the while not being able to just dash around, especially when you get to like the low level areas. I mean, once you get your upgrades, you can make short work of the enemies, and it does feel pretty powerful. You know, you feel like, oh yeah, this thing was so tough the first couple of times I fought it, but now that I've got all these power-ups and stuff, it's quicker and easier. But still, I found it a little tedious here and there to traverse the world, especially once I had everything memorized and I knew I just needed to get way across from point A to point B. There's fast travel, but it's kind of few and far between, and sometimes I'd be like, okay, is it faster to go all the way over there to the fast travel and then fast travel to another area that's not too close to where I'm going, or is it just faster to go straight to where I'm going? So yeah, the traversal could have been handled a little better, I think. It kind of makes me feel like the game has been, you know, padded out to make it a little bit longer, just by, you know, forcing you to run around like this. Now, if you're someone who likes to grind, well then, what do I have the game for you? Because you can grind and really power yourself up and get all kinds of extra, and you can just load yourself up with all kinds of components and everything like that once you upgrade a whole bunch. So, you know, it's a different game for a lot of different people. I do want to really mention one thing that I think every one of these Souls-like games should start doing. This is not a Souls-like game, but it has the Souls-like body run mechanic. When you die, all your nano gel is sucked out. So if you're running around with the nano gel, is essentially your XP and your money in this game to buy upgrades and stuff like that. So if you die and you had a whole bunch of nano gel, well, that just gets left behind, just like when you die in a Dark Souls game or in Hollow Knight or something like that. And then you're transported back to the last place you saved, which sometimes is really far away. And if you want to get your nano gel back, you have to go all the way back and essentially do a body run, find your body, and then collect that nano gel. Now, a lot of times in games like this that are very heavy on the exploration, I found myself wandering way off into the middle of nowhere and then getting killed. And then when I respawn, I don't necessarily want to go back to that area because I've realized that's not the direction I should be going. It's way, way far away from where I should be going, and I don't want to go back there. But games like this force you to go back there, and I made an entire video about why I don't like this. However, the developers have given us an option, and I can already hear the fanboys screaming in the comments. I don't care. It's amazing. There's an option to play on Explorer mode. Every game, including the Souls-like games, should have an Explorer mode so that people like me could enjoy them the way that we're going to mod them. I mod these games to make them like this anyway, so that when I die, I don't lose all my runes and stuff, because I like to try to climb to the weird precipices and get places that I shouldn't get. That's half the fun for me. You know, combat's like 1/4 of my enjoyment. You know, the other 3/4 is the exploration, looking at the scenery, exploring the world, finding out what's going on here. And, you know, just trying to get places I shouldn't be able to get to and see if I can. And it's like that with all of these games. When you're playing in Explore mode, you do lose a little bit of your nano gel when you die, but only like 1/10 of what it would be in the first place. It's like almost nothing. So the punishment for death is very minimal, and that way I don't have to worry about like, oh no, am I going in the wrong direction? And if I die here, am I going to have to come all the way back here? I can just sort of chill, lean back. It lowers my stress levels, and then I can explore and enjoy the game the way I want to enjoy the game. So really, really, really appreciate the Explore mode in this game. I hope a lot of people play this. I hope a lot of people like it, and I hope that more games have features like this so I don't have to rely on cheats and mods in order to make these games more fun for me. If you don't like it, you know what? You play it the regular way, and I'll play it my way, and everybody can be happy. And people who say that there's only one way to play, well, that's just gaming fascism, and we don't like fascism, do we? See, I said a buzzword, finally. Oh yeah, one last thing. I want to say that the voice acting is really good in this. There's some really cool moments.
I'll get to find all these strange new things in a strange new body. That's exciting. Isn't it?
I think so.
It's subtle, it's peaceful, and just very well delivered lines whenever there's voice acting. And there's more than I expected, in this game. Is quite a bit more than I expected. So enjoy the voice acting. The characters are, I guess, a little bit more real in this than they are in some other games. They give them personalities and traits and desires and wants and things like that, things to think about. So there's a lot going on there. The characters who exist in this environment, on this world, a little, I guess, weird. Everything's a little cryptic. What's going on with these ghosts and all that kind of stuff? There's a lot of cryptic stuff going on, but I guess that just kind of lends it to its roots of, Souls-like stuff. And everything has to be cryptic and make no sense. Super Metroid is still the best game in this genre. It's still by far the best. It's got this flow that just, it's nearly perfect. And I don't think this game is exactly trying to do that, but they do have similar unlock schedules in the beginning on how you have to open doors. You have to get the missile before you can open the first big door and stuff like that. So it draws heavily from that game, but the flow is a lot more like a Souls game or a Hollow Knight type game. So if you go into it expecting that, and you want some cool artwork and some fun upgrades and some good enemies with your character there in the dead suit, the ending, I don't know what the ending's telling me. Maybe it's leaving it open so that we can have another game. So I guess we'll have to wait and see if we do get another game. But if we do, it would be cool to see how they change things or what they can add to it. Overall, I had a lot of fun despite the fact that it was very derivative. I don't think I've ever experienced anything that's both this interesting and original, but also this derivative at the same time. It's sort of a paradox in that way. If you played this, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the comments.